I'm shaking again. My hands tremble as I grip the steering wheel, knuckles white against the black leather. It's been happening more frequently lately, this involuntary tremor that starts in my fingers and spreads through my entire body like an electrical current I can't control. Sometimes it's just my hands. Sometimes it's everything. Today it's bad enough that I had to pull into the parking lot of Giovanni's, an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago, just to catch my breath, just to remember how to breathe at all. The custody hearing is in 3 days. 72 hours until I have to sit across from Bradley in a courtroom and pretend that I'm not terrified of him, that I don't still hear his voice in my head telling me I'm worthless, that I'm a terrible mother, that no judge in their right mind would let someone like me keep a child. 72 hours until he tries to take Ethan away from me. My phone buzzes. Another text from Bradley's lawyer. I don't open it. I already know what it says. Some variation of, be reasonable. Some thinly veiled threat, wrapped in legal language about what's best for the child. Mommy? I look in the rearview mirror at my 6-year-old son, strapped into his booster seat with his dinosaur backpack on his lap. Ethan's gray eyes so much like mine, thank God. Nothing like Bradley's cold blue ones are wide with concern. Are you okay? He asks quietly. I'm fine, baby. The lie tastes like ash. Mommy just needs a minute. You're shaking again. I press my hands together, trying to still them. I know. It's okay. It'll stop in a minute. Does it hurt? No, sweetheart. It doesn't hurt. Another lie. It doesn't hurt physically, but emotionally it's agony, this constant reminder that Bradley still has power over me even though we've been divorced for 8 months. That his threats, his manipulation, his systematic destruction of my self-worth still echo in my body like muscle memory. Can we go inside? Ethan asks. I'm hungry. And you said we could have a special dinner before we have to see Daddy again. The way he says, Daddy, breaks my heart. There's no warmth in it, no excitement, just resignation. Ethan knows what visits with Bradley are like, the interrogations, disguised as conversations. The subtle criticisms of me delivered through a child's innocent questions. The way Bradley uses our son as a weapon to hurt me. Yeah, baby. Let's go inside. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. I take 3 deep breaths, forcing my hands to steady, and get out of the car. Giovanni's wasn't my first choice for dinner. It's expensive. The kind of place Bradley would have taken clients when we were married, but Ethan had seen it on the way to his piano lesson last week and begged to go to the fancy restaurant with the lights. I couldn't say no. Not when I didn't know how many more dinners like this we'd have together. The hostess, a young woman with a professional smile, greets us at the entrance. Good evening. Do you have a reservation? No, I'm sorry. I was hoping you might have a table for 2. She glances at her computer screen, and I see her hesitation. It's Saturday evening. Of course they're fully booked. I should have called ahead, but I didn't plan this. I just needed to get out of our apartment, away from the walls that feel like they're closing in, away from the stack of legal documents on my kitchen table that I can't afford a lawyer to review. I'm afraid we're completely booked for the evening, she says apologetically. I could put you on the waiting list, but it might be an hour or more. Ethan's face falls. Oh, it's okay, buddy. We'll find somewhere else. Actually, Maria, I have plenty of room. The voice comes from behind me, deep, controlled, with a slight Italian accent that adds weight to every word. I turn and find myself looking up at a man who seems to command the space around him without even trying. He's tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled back from a face that belongs on a movie screen, sharp jawline, dark eyes that seem to see everything, olive skin that suggests Mediterranean heritage. He's wearing a charcoal suit that probably costs more than my monthly rent, perfectly tailored to broad shoulders and a lean frame. A watch glints on his wrist, the kind you don't buy in stores, the kind with a waiting list and a price tag that could pay for a year of Ethan's private school tuition. But it's not his appearance that makes me catch my breath. It's the way he looks at me, not with pity or judgment, but with something I can't quite name. Recognition, maybe, or concern. Mr. Santoro, the hostess says, her voice brightening immediately. Of course. Are you sure? Positive. I have the corner table in the private dining room. More than enough space. He looks down at Ethan, and his expression softens. How old are you, son? 6, Ethan says shyly. I'm 6 3/4. 6 3/4. That's a very important age. The man crouches down to Ethan's level, and I'm struck by the gesture, this powerful man making himself small for my child. Do you like fettuccine Alfredo? Ethan nods enthusiastically. Then you're in luck. Giovanni makes the best fettuccine in all of Chicago. I should know I own the restaurant. My stomach drops. This man owns Giovanni's, which means he's not just wealthy. He's successful, established. Someone who operates in a world so far removed from mine that we might as well be from different planets. I start, my hands beginning to tremble again. We couldn't impose. It's not an imposition. He stands, his full height suddenly overwhelming. I'm Dante Moretti, and you are? Sarah Chen. I wrap my arms around myself, trying to hide the shaking. And this is my son, Ethan. It's nice to meet you both. Dante looks at Maria. Have Marco bring the usual menu to the private room and add the children's options. Then, turning back to me, please. I was going to eat alone anyway, and I hate eating alone. You'd actually be doing me a favor. There's something in his eyes that tells me he knows I want to refuse, that he can see the pride warring with desperation, the need to maintain independence, battling against the desire to give Ethan this one nice evening. Mommy, please. Ethan tugs on my hand. He said they have the best pasta. I look at my son's hopeful face, and I can't say no. Not to him. Not tonight. Okay, I whisper. Thank you. That's very kind. Dante smiles, and it transforms his entire face. Follow me. The private dining room is stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River, candlelight reflecting off crystal glasses, white tablecloths that probably cost more to clean than I spend on groceries in a week. A single table sits, in the center, set for one, but within moments a server appears and transforms it into a table for 3. Ethan's eyes are huge, taking in every detail. Mommy, it's like a palace. Not quite a palace, Dante says, pulling out a chair for Ethan, then one for me, but I'm glad you like it. I sit, my hands still trembling slightly as I place them in my lap. Dante takes the seat across from us, and I notice how he moves controlled, deliberate, like every action is calculated. He gestures to a server who appears instantly with water and a basket of warm bread. So, Ethan, Dante says conversationally, tell me about yourself. What do you like to do? I like dinosaurs, Ethan says, warming up immediately. Especially velociraptors. They're the smartest dinosaurs. And I like drawing and piano and reading. A man of many talents. What kind of books do you like? As Ethan launches into an enthusiastic description of his favorite Magic Treehouse books, I watch Dante listen with genuine interest. He asks follow-up questions, makes comments that show he's actually paying attention, treats my 6-year-old son like his opinions matter. It's such a stark contrast to Bradley, who could barely stay in the same room with Ethan for more than 20 minutes without getting irritated by all the noise. What about you, Sarah? Dante asks, his dark eyes settling on me. What do you do? I'm a graphic designer. I try to keep my voice steady. Freelance. Mostly. I work from home so I can be with Ethan. That's wonderful. It's important for children to have a parent present. There's something in the way he says it, approval, maybe, or respect, that makes my throat tighten. The food arrives, fettuccine Alfredo for Ethan, which he attacks with enthusiasm, and dishes I can't even pronounce for Dante and me. Everything is exquisite, prepared by someone who clearly understands that food can be art, but I can barely taste it. My mind keeps circling back to the custody hearing, to Bradley's threats, to the very real possibility that in 3 days everything could change. Mommy can't stop shaking. Ethan's voice cuts through my spiraling thoughts. I look up to find both him and Dante watching me. My hands are trembling so badly that I've had to set down my fork. I'm fine, baby. She does it a lot now. Ethan continues, his young voice carrying that matter-of-fact honesty that children have. He's looking at Dante like he's explaining something important. She says it's okay, but I don't think it is. It started after Daddy yelled at her really loud. My face flushes hot with embarrassment. Ethan, sweetheart, mister. Moretti doesn't need to hear about. When was this? Dante asks quietly. His entire demeanor has shifted. The casual friendliness is gone, replaced by something harder, more focused. At the park? Ethan says. 2 weeks ago. Daddy was supposed to pick me up for the weekend, and Mommy tried to talk to him about something, and he got really mad. He didn't hit her, he adds quickly, but he yelled really loud and got really close to her face and said bad words. And then Mommy started shaking and couldn't stop for a long time. I want to sink through the floor. Want to grab Ethan and run from this room, from this man's suddenly intense gaze, from my own humiliation. Ethan, that's enough, I say firmly, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Mr. Moretti. He doesn't understand. He understands perfectly. Dante's voice is soft, but there's steel underneath it. His eyes haven't left my face. You're afraid of your ex-husband. It's not a question. It's a statement. And the directness of it, the lack of judgment or disbelief, makes something crack open in my chest. I'm handling it. I manage. Are you? He leans forward slightly. Because from where I'm sitting, you're terrified. And your son is worried about you. Tears prick at my eyes. I blink them back furiously. It's complicated. There's a custody hearing in 3 days. And Bradley, my ex, he's fighting for primary custody. He has money, lawyers, connections. I have nothing except the fact that I'm Ethan's mother and I love him more than anything in this world. But apparently that's not enough. Why does he want custody? Dante asks. If he barely spends time with his son? The question is so perceptive it steals my breath. Control. He doesn't actually want Ethan. He wants to punish me for leaving him, for taking away his picture-perfect family. He's a corporate lawyer at one of the biggest firms in Chicago. Image is everything to him. And nothing says unstable woman like being a freelance designer with anxiety issues who can't even hold a fork without shaking. My voice breaks on the last word. I press my hands together, trying to stop the trembling, but it's useless. Ethan reaches over and puts his small hand on my arm. It's okay, Mommy. You said the shaking doesn't hurt. It doesn't, baby, I promise. Dante is silent for a long moment, studying us both. Then he pulls out his phone and types something quickly. When he looks up, his expression has changed again, still intense. But now there's something else there. Decision. Sarah, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Do you feel safe? The question hangs in the air between us. I could lie, could tell him everything is fine, that I'm managing, that the shaking is just stress and will go away after the custody hearing. But something about Dante Moretti's dark eyes, about the way he's looking at me like he actually sees me, makes the truth spill out. No, I whisper. I don't feel safe. Bradley hasn't hurt me physically. He's too smart for that, but he knows exactly how to make me feel small and powerless. He knows what words to use, what threats to make. And now he's using Ethan as a weapon, telling me I'm an unfit mother, that I'm unstable, that any judge would see I can't take care of our son properly. And I'm terrified he might be right. He's not. Dante's voice is absolute. But I understand why you're afraid. Men like your ex-husband are experts at psychological warfare. They don't need to use their fists when they can use words to destroy you. You sound like you've seen it before. I have. Too many times. His jaw tightens. And I've also learned that sometimes the legal system isn't enough. Sometimes you need someone who can speak the language that men like Bradley understand. I don't know what to say to that. Don't know how to interpret the weight behind his words. Before I can respond, his phone buzzes. He glances at it, then back at me. I've just had my assistant pull some information. Bradley Chen, corporate lawyer at Morrison & Phillips. Married for 6 years, divorced 8 months ago. One child, Ethan, age 6. No criminal record, no documented history of violence. He pauses. But there are complaints. 3 formal complaints filed by junior associates at his firm about hostile work, environment, and verbal abuse. All buried by the firm's HR department. My mouth falls open. How did you... I have resources. He says it simply, like having access to confidential employment records is perfectly normal, and I believe in using them when necessary. I don't understand. Why are you helping us? You don't even know me. Dante looks at Ethan, who's gone back to eating his pasta, then back at me. Because your son said something that struck me. Mommy can't stop shaking. That's not something a 6-year-old should have to worry about. Children should feel safe, and they should know their parents are safe. When I heard that, when I saw the fear in your eyes, I made a decision. What decision? That I was going to make sure you and Ethan are protected, that your ex-husband understands there are consequences for terrorizing you, and that when you walk into that custody hearing in 3 days, you won't be alone. I stare at him, my heart hammering. I can't afford a bray. Lawyer. I can barely afford. You're not paying for anything. His voice is firm. Consider this a service that Giovanni's provides to its guests. Restaurants don't provide legal protection. The corner of his mouth twitches, almost a smile. Mine does. We stay at Giovanni's for another hour, though I barely register the passage of time. Dante makes a series of phone calls in Italian rapid, clipped conversations that I can't follow but that clearly involve giving orders. Between calls, he keeps the conversation light for Ethan's sake, asking about school, about dinosaurs, about what Ethan wants to be when he grows up. A paleontologist, Ethan says seriously, so I can dig up dinosaur bones and figure out how they lived. That's an excellent career choice, Dante replies. You'll need to study hard in school. Math, science, reading, all of it matters. I know. Mommy helps me with my homework every night. Ethan looks at me with such complete trust that my chest aches. She's really smart. She knows everything. I'm sure she does. Dante's eyes meet mine and there's something warm in them now. Something that makes my pulse quicken in a way that has nothing to do with fear. When Ethan excuses himself to use the bathroom, escorted by a server Dante summons with a subtle gesture, the warmth disappears from his expression. What replaces it is all business. I need you to understand what you're walking into, he says quietly. If you accept my help, there are things you need to know about me, things that might make you uncomfortable. Like what? Like the fact that I don't just own restaurants. My family has interests in various sectors: real estate, imports, security consulting. Some of our methods are unconventional. He holds my gaze steadily. I operate in spaces where the legal system can't always reach. Do you understand what I'm saying? I do. I'm not naive. A man doesn't have the kind of power Dante Moretti clearly wields, doesn't get information about confidential HR complaints within minutes, doesn't inspire the kind of immediate deference I've seen from his staff by being just a legitimate businessman. You're telling me you're connected, I say carefully. I'm telling you that I have resources most people don't, and that sometimes those resources involve operating outside traditional legal channels. He leans forward. But I'm also telling you that I have a code. I don't hurt innocent people. I don't target women or children. And I don't tolerate men who use their power to terrorize the people who should be able to trust them most. Why? The question comes out as a whisper. Why do you care about this? About me? Dante is quiet for a moment, his expression distant. My mother was in a situation similar to yours once. My father, my biological father, not the man who raised me, was a brutal man who used violence and intimidation to control her. She had nowhere to go, no resources, no one who would stand up to him. His jaw tightens. By the time someone finally intervened, she'd endured years of abuse, years of being told she was worthless, that no one would help her, that she deserved what she got. I'm sorry. Don't be. She survived. She's strong now. probably the strongest person I know. But I watched what that experience did to her, and I swore that if I ever had the power to stop something similar from happening to someone else, I would. He looks at me intently. When Ethan said you couldn't stop shaking, when I saw the fear in your eyes, I saw my mother, and I couldn't look away. Tears slip down my cheeks before I can stop them. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let me help you. Say you'll trust me, at least long enough to get through this custody hearing. His voice gentles. Sarah, you don't have to be afraid anymore. Not of Bradley, not of losing Ethan, not of facing this alone. I'm going to make sure of that. I don't even know you. You know enough. You know I have resources. You know I'm willing to use them. And you know, he gestures to where Ethan is returning from the bathroom, that I care about making sure your son doesn't have to worry about whether his mother is safe. Ethan climbs back into his chair, looking between us with that perceptive way children have. Are you crying, Mommy? Happy tears, baby. I wipe my face quickly. Mr. Moretti was just telling me about how he might be able to help us with the custody situation. So I don't have to go live with Daddy? The fear in his voice breaks my heart all over again. No, sweetheart. You're staying with me. Always. Dante signals for the check, though. Of course there isn't one since he owns the restaurant and stands. I'm going to have my driver take you both home. Tomorrow morning, I want you to come to my office. I'll have my lawyer there, and we'll go through everything you need for the custody hearing. I can't afford. You're not paying, he interrupts firmly. Consider this an investment in making sure a good mother doesn't lose her child to a man who doesn't deserve either of them. The car that takes us home is a sleek black Mercedes with leather seats and a driver who introduces himself simply as Marco. Ethan falls asleep almost immediately, exhausted by the excitement and the rich food, his head resting against my shoulder. Marco catches my eye in the rearview mirror. Mr. Moretti wanted me to tell you that someone will be watching your building tonight, just a precaution. Watching for what? For your ex-husband. In case he decides to make an appearance before the custody hearing. The thought should terrify me that Dante thinks Bradley might show up, that I need protection. But instead, I feel a strange sense of relief. For the first time in months, I'm not facing this alone. When we arrive at my modest apartment building in Lincoln Park, Marco insists on walking us up. He does a quick sweep of my apartment, checking closets, looking out, windows, ensuring we're alone with the efficiency of someone who's done this many times before. Lock the door behind me, he instructs. Don't open it for anyone except Mr. Moretti or myself. If you need anything at all, you call this number. He hands me a card with a single phone number printed on it. Someone will answer immediately, day or night. After he leaves, I carry Ethan to his bed and tuck him in, still fully clothed. He stirs slightly, mumbling about velociraptors and pasta, but doesn't wake. I sit on the edge of his bed for a long time, just watching him sleep, memorizing the curve of his cheek, the way his hair falls across his forehead. In 3 days, everything could change. Bradley could convince a judge that I'm unstable, that my anxiety makes me an unfit mother, that Ethan would be better off in his stable, 2-parent household. He'd gotten engaged to his paralegal 2 months after our divorce was finalized, another knife twist designed to show how easily I'd been replaced. But now I have something I didn't have before, someone in my corner, someone powerful enough to stand up to Bradley's lawyers and money and connections. I just have to trust him. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Make sure you and Ethan are ready by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Marco will pick you up. Get some rest, Sarah. You're safe now. DM. I stare at those last 3 words. You're safe now. When was the last time I felt safe? Before the divorce, certainly. Before Bradley's mask slipped and I saw what he really was beneath the charm and success. Before I realized that the man I'd married, the father of my child, saw us as possessions rather than people. I type back. Thank you. For everything. I don't know why you're doing this, but thank you. His response comes quickly. Because your son shouldn't have to worry about you shaking. Because you deserve to breathe without fear. Because someone has to stand up to men like Bradley. Sleep well. I do sleep. For the first time in weeks. No nightmares about custody hearings or judges taking Ethan away. No panic attacks at 3 a.m. wondering how I'll pay for a lawyer. Just deep, dreamless sleep. Marco arrives at exactly 9 a.m., as promised. Ethan is excited to ride in the fancy car again, chattering about how he's going to tell his friend James all about it at school on Monday. Dante's office is in a sleek high-rise in the Loop, all glass and modern architecture. We take a private elevator to the top floor, where a receptionist greets us by name she'd been expecting us, and leads us to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Dante is already there, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably costs more than 3 months of my rent. He's not alone. A woman in her 50s sits across from him, professional and sharp-eyed, with a leather portfolio in her lap. Sarah, Ethan. Dante stands, his expression warm. Thank you for coming. This is Jennifer Morrison. She's the best family law attorney in Illinois. Jennifer stands and shakes my hand with a firm grip. It's nice to meet you, Sarah. Dante's filled me in on your situation, and I have to say, I'm looking forward to this case. I can't afford... I start, but Dante cuts me off with a gentle hand on my shoulder. We've already discussed fees. This isn't something you need to worry about. He looks down at Ethan. There's a room next door with toys, books, and a TV. Would you like to go play while your mom talks with the adults? Ethan looks at me for permission. I nod, and a young man, another of Dante's employees, leads him out. Once the door closes, Jennifer opens her portfolio. Okay, let's talk strategy. The custody hearing is in 3 days. Bradley Chen is represented by Harris & Stone, one of the best family law firms in the city. They're expensive, aggressive, and they play dirty. But here's what they don't know. I used to work at Harris & Stone. I know every trick they use, and I won't know how to counter them. What are they going to argue? My hands are already starting to tremble. That you're financially unstable. That your anxiety makes you unfit to care for Ethan full-time. That Bradley can provide a better home environment. Jennifer says it matter-of-factly, without judgment. They'll paint you as a struggling single mother who can barely take care of herself, let alone a child. Each word is a punch to the gut, but she's right. That's exactly what Bradley's been saying for months. Here's what we're going to argue, Jennifer continues. That you're a dedicated mother who works from home specifically to be present for your child. That you've provided a stable, loving environment since the divorce. That your anxiety is a normal response to your ex-husband's psychological abuse, which we're going to document extensively. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything, and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Document how? I ask. I spent last night going through everything Dante sent me. Bradley's complaints at work, witness statements from people who've seen his behavior, your medical records showing when the anxiety started after you left him. We're also going to call character witnesses, your neighbors, Ethan's teacher, your clients who can testify to your work ethic and reliability. What about the shaking? I hold up my trembling hands. They're going to use this against me, aren't they? Say I'm unstable. They might try, Jennifer agrees, which is why we have Dr. Rebecca Palmer ready to testify. She's a psychiatrist who specializes in trauma and abuse survivors. She's going to explain that what you're experiencing is a normal physiological response to sustained psychological trauma, and that it in no way impairs your ability to parent effectively. I look at Dante, who's been standing by the window, watching the day. Conversation. You arranged all of this in one night? I have good people, he says simply. And I told you I was going to make sure you didn't face this alone. Jennifer pulls out another document. Now, there's something else we need to discuss. Dante mentioned that Bradley has been making threats, both implicit and explicit. Has he ever threatened you directly? Not physically, but he's told me he'll make sure I never see Ethan again. That he'll prove I'm an unfit mother, that he has lawyers and money and connections, and I have nothing. My voice breaks. He said no one would believe me if I tried to claim abuse because there are no bruises, no police reports, nothing documented. That's where he's wrong, Dante says, turning from the window. His voice is cold now, dangerous. Because I believe you, and I'm going to make sure everyone in that courtroom believes you too. How? He exchanges a look with Jennifer, who nods. Bradley doesn't know that I've been investigating him, Dante explains. Doesn't know that I have documentation of his verbal abuse at work, of the complaints that were buried. Doesn't know that I've spoken to 3 women he dated before you, all of whom have similar stories about his controlling behavior and psychological manipulation. You found his ex-girlfriends? It wasn't hard. Men like Bradley leave a trail of damage wherever they go. The question is whether people are willing to talk about it. He sits on the edge of his desk. 2 of them are willing to give depositions. The 3rd is still too afraid, which I understand. But 2 is enough to establish a pattern of behavior. Jennifer adds, we're also going to file a motion to have a guardian ad litem appointed an independent advocate whose only job is to determine what's in Ethan's best interest. Once they interview Ethan and see how afraid he is of his father, how much he wants to stay with you, it's going to be very hard for Bradley to make his case. What if it's not enough? The fear is still there, coiling in my stomach. What if the judge still sides with him? Dante's expression hardens. Then we move to Plan B. What's Plan B? You let me handle Bradley directly. Make him understand that pursuing this custody case is not in his best interest. He holds up a hand before I can protest. I'm not talking about violence, Sarah. I'm talking about making it very clear that if he continues to harass you and use Ethan as a weapon, there will be consequences he can't anticipate or control. Jennifer closes her portfolio and stands. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. If we present our case properly, the judge will see through Bradley's claims. You're a good mother, Sarah. You just need someone to make sure the court sees that too. After Jennifer leaves to begin preparing the case, Dante pours me a glass of water from a crystal decanter on a side table. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold it. He notices. Of course he notices. Sit down, he says gently, guiding me to a leather chair by the window. Breathe. I can't. The words come out panicked. I can't do this. I can't go into that courtroom and have everything about me picked apart. I can't watch Bradley lie and manipulate and... Sarah. Dante crouches in front of me, taking the water glass and setting it aside. Look at me. I force myself to meet his dark eyes. You've already survived the worst of him. You left. You rebuilt your life. You've been raising Ethan alone for 8 months, and from what I can see, you've been doing an exceptional job. This hearing? It's just one more obstacle. And this time, you're not facing it alone. Why are you doing this? I ask again, because I still can't understand it. You barely know me. You don't owe me anything. Because when I look at you, I see someone who deserves better than what she got. Someone who's been fighting alone for too long. His voice softens. And because Ethan reminds me of myself at that age, a kid who just wanted his mother to be safe and didn't understand why the adults in his life couldn't make that happen. Did someone eventually make your mother safe? Yes. My stepfather, the man who raised me after my biological father was removed from our lives. He saw what was happening and he intervened. He used his resources, his connections, his power to make sure my mother never had to be afraid again. Dante stands but doesn't step back. I'm doing for you what he did for her. Paying forward a debt I can never repay. The sincerity in his voice, the weight of his own history, makes my throat tight. Thank you, I whisper. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't repay kindness, Sarah. You just accept it. And maybe someday, when you're stronger and safer and ready, you pay it forward to someone else who needs it. A knock on the door interrupts us. The young man who'd taken Ethan returns, looking concerned. Mr. Moretti, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation. Dante's entire demeanor shifts. What kind of situation? There's a man in the lobby demanding to see Miss Chen. Security is dealing with it, but he's being very aggressive. Says he's her ex-husband, and he has a right to know where his son is. My blood turns to ice. Bradley's here? Dante's expression goes cold, not angry, but dangerous. Marco. he says into his phone, which seems to appear in his hand instantly. Bradley Chen is in the lobby. I need you and Tony down there now. He hangs up and looks at me. Stay here. Lock the door after I leave. Don't open it for anyone except me, Dante. Trust me, Sarah. I'm going to handle this. He leaves before I can protest, and I hear the lock click into place from the outside. Ethan appears from the playroom, his expression worried. Mommy, what's wrong? Who's in the lobby? I force a smile, even though my whole body is shaking now. Nothing's wrong, baby. Mr. Moretti is just taking care of something. Come here. I pull him into my arms, holding him tight, and pray that Dante knows what he's doing. In the lobby, Dante steps out of the elevator to find a scene that confirms everything Sarah told him about her ex-husband. Bradley Chen is in his mid-30s, handsome in that polished corporate way, wearing an expensive suit and radiating the kind of entitled anger that comes from being told no for the first time in his life. He's arguing with security, his voice raised. I have every right to see my son. His mother brought him here, and I demand to know why. Who the hell is this Moretti anyway? I'm Moretti. Dante's voice cuts through the lobby, quiet but commanding. Everyone turns to look at him. Bradley's eyes narrow. And who exactly are you to my ex-wife? Someone who's making sure she and Ethan are protected. Dante walks closer, each step measured. Marco and Tony have appeared on either side of the lobby entrance, blocking the exits. You need to leave, Mr. Chen. I need to leave? This is a public building. I have every right to be here. You have no right to harass your ex-wife or demand to know her whereabouts. Dante stops a few feet away, close enough to be heard clearly without raising his voice. Sarah is here consulting with her attorney about the custody hearing. You'll see Ethan when the court says you can see him, and not before. Her attorney? Bradley laughs, but there's no humor in it. Sarah can't afford an attorney. She can barely afford her rent, so either you're lying, or... His eyes widen slightly as understanding dawns. Oh, I see. She found herself a sugar daddy. How predictable. The weak little victim finding a man to rescue her. Dante's jaw tightens. You need to be very careful about what you say next. Or what? You'll do what? Exactly. Bradley steps closer, his corporate lawyer bravado making him reckless. I don't know who you think you are, but I'm not intimidated by some restaurant owner who thinks he can insert himself into my family business. Your family business ended when you started terrorizing your ex-wife to the point that she can't hold a fork without shaking. Dante's voice drops lower, taking on an edge that makes several people in the lobby step back. When you started using your 6-year-old son as a weapon to hurt his mother. When you decided that destroying Sarah's peace of mind was more important than your child's well-being. You don't know anything about my relationship with Sarah. I know everything. Dante pulls out his phone and shows Bradley the screen. I know about the complaints at Morrison and Phillips. I know about the HR reports that were buried. I know about Lindsay Marsh, Jessica Torres, and Amanda Wright, 3 women who dated you before Sarah, and who all have remarkably similar stories about your controlling behavior and psychological abuse. Bradley's face goes pale. That's private information. You can't. I can, and I did. Dante pockets his phone. Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Chen. You're going to turn around and leave this building. You're going to stop harassing Sarah. You're going to stop using Ethan to hurt her. And when you show up to that custody hearing in 3 days, you're going to realize very quickly that you've made a grave miscalculation. This is harassment. I'll report you. To whom? Dante asks. The police? Go ahead. While you're there, you can explain why you were demanding to know your ex-wife's location and threatening the security staff of a private building. I'm sure they'll be very interested in that, especially given the restraining order Sarah is filing tomorrow. There is no restraining order. There will be by tomorrow afternoon. Dante gestures to Marco and Tony, who move closer. Now, you have 2 choices. You can leave on your own, or my associates can escort you out. Which would you prefer? Bradley looks at the 2 men, both significantly larger than him, both radiating the kind of quiet menace that comes from knowing exactly how to handle trouble, and his bravado crumbles. This isn't over, he says. but his voice lacks conviction. "Yes," Dante replies, his voice like ice. "It is. And if I see you near Sarah or Ethan before the custody hearing, if I hear that you've contacted her or threatened her or done anything to make her feel unsafe, we're going to have a very different conversation. One that won't take place in a public lobby. Do you understand me?" Something in Dante's expression, something cold and absolute, makes Bradley take a step back. He's used to intimidating people, to using his position and money to get what he wants. But he suddenly realized he's dealing with someone who operates on an entirely different level. "I understand," he mutters. "Good. Marco will see you out." After Bradley leaves, Dante stands in the lobby for a moment, letting his anger cool. Then he returns to his office, unlocking the door to find Sarah standing by the window, Ethan beside her, both looking worried. "Is he gone?" Sarah asks, her voice small. "He's gone, and he won't be back." Dante crouches down to Ethan's level. "Hey, buddy. Everything's okay now. Your dad was confused about some things, but we cleared it up." "He was yelling again, wasn't he?" Ethan says perceptively. "I heard his voice from up here. He was upset, but it's handled now." Dante looks at Sarah. "We need to file that restraining order today. Jennifer's already preparing the paperwork. With what just happened, witnesses who saw him demanding to know your location, threatening behavior, the judge will grant it immediately." "He's going to be furious," Sarah whispers. "Let him be furious. He can be furious from a legally mandated distance." Dante stands, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone in this anymore, Sarah. Every time he tries to intimidate you, every time he tries to use his power to hurt you, I'm going to be there to stop him. And eventually, he's going to realize that you're not the defenseless woman he thinks you are anymore." Sarah looks up at him, her gray eyes shining with tears. And for the first time since they met, Dante sees something besides fear in her expression. Hope. The custody hearing arrives like an approaching storm, inevitable, terrifying, and somehow surreal despite all the preparation. I wake at 5 a.m. on Thursday morning, my body too wired with anxiety to sleep any longer. The restraining order was granted 2 days ago, which means Bradley hasn't been able to contact me directly, but I know he's been working with his lawyers, strategizing, preparing to paint me as the unstable woman he's always claimed I am. I shower and dress in the outfit Jennifer helped me choose, a navy blue dress that's professional without being severe, paired with a blazer that makes me look put together even though I feel like I'm falling apart. My hands shake as I apply minimal makeup, trying to cover the dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer can fully hide. Ethan is still asleep when I check on him. We'd decided together that he wouldn't come to the hearing, Jennifer said. The judge might want to speak with him privately later, but there was no reason to subject a 6-year-old to the courtroom drama. Dante had arranged for his housekeeper, Maria, a warm grandmother type who Ethan had bonded with immediately, to stay with him at my apartment. My phone buzzes with a text from Dante. "Marco will be there in 20 minutes. You've got this, Sarah. Remember, you're the best thing that ever happened to Ethan, and today the judge is going to see that." I stare at those words, trying to absorb them, trying to believe them. Over the past 3 days, Dante has been a constant presence, checking in multiple times a day, going over testimony with Jennifer and me, making sure I ate and slept and didn't spiral into panic attacks. He'd been professional and respectful, never crossing any boundaries, but there had been moments, his hand on my shoulder when I was shaking too badly to continue, the way his eyes softened when he talked to Ethan, the protective edge in his voice whenever Bradley's name came up, that made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. Safe, seen, valued, but also something more complicated, something that felt like attraction, like connection, like the dangerous beginning of feelings I had no business developing for a man who'd inserted himself into my life during its most chaotic moment. Marco arrives exactly on time, and we drive to the courthouse in silence. Jennifer meets us outside, her expression confident and calm. "Bradley's already inside with his legal team," she says as we walk through security. 4 lawyers. They're trying to intimidate us with numbers. "Is it working?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper, not even a little. She smiles, Quality beats quantity every time, and we have the truth on our side. The courtroom is smaller than I expected, more like an office than the dramatic spaces you see on TV. Bradley sits at one table with his army of lawyers, all of them in expensive suits, all of them radiating confident authority. When he sees me, his expression hardens into something cold and cruel. I force myself to meet his eyes, to not look away. Jennifer's words echo in my head. You're not his victim anymore. You're a survivor. Act like it. Then Dante walks in, and everything shifts. He's not testifying, he has no official role in these proceedings, but he'd told me he'd be there, and he keeps his promises. He takes a seat in the gallery behind our table, and his presence alone makes my breathing easier. Bradley notices him too, and I see uncertainty flicker across his face before his lawyer leans over to whisper something. All rise. The bailiff calls. The Honorable Judge Patricia Brennan presiding. Judge Brennan is in her late 50s with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that seem to miss nothing. She settles behind the parafé bench and looks over the paperwork before her. This is a custody modification hearing in the matter of Chen versus Chen. She begins. Mr. Chen is petitioning for primary custody of the minor child, Ethan Chen, age 6. Miss Chen opposes this modification and wishes to maintain the current custody arrangement. Let's begin with opening statements. Bradley's lead attorney, a silver-haired man named Richard Stone, stands and launches into a polished speech about how Bradley can provide a stable, two-parent household with financial security and educational opportunities that I simply cannot match. He talks about my documented anxiety issues and my unstable work situation as a freelancer. He makes it sound reasonable, concerned, like they're only thinking of what's best for Ethan. Then Jennifer stands, and her voice is steel wrapped in silk. Your Honor, what we have here is not a father concerned about his child's welfare. What we have is a man who has used psychological abuse and intimidation to control his ex-wife for years, and who is now using the legal system to continue that abuse. We will demonstrate that Miss Chen is a devoted, capable mother who has provided Ethan with a loving, stable home. We will also demonstrate that Mr. Chen's interest in custody has nothing to do with parenting and everything to do with punishment. The hearing proceeds methodically. Bradley's team calls witnesses his fiancée, who describes their beautiful home and stable relationship, a child psychologist who talks about the benefits of two-parent households, his own mother, who testifies that Sarah has always been fragile and overwhelmed. Each testimony is a knife, carefully placed to make me doubt myself. By the time they rest their case, I'm shaking again, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Then it's our turn. Jennifer calls Dr. Rebecca Palmer first, the psychiatrist who'd evaluated me. Dr. Palmer explains, in clear clinical terms, that my anxiety is a direct result of sustained psychological abuse, that it's a normal trauma response, and that it in no way impairs my ability to parent. In fact, Dr. Palmer says, Miss Chen's dedication to her son despite her own struggles is remarkable. She attends therapy, practices coping mechanisms, and has created a stable, nurturing environment for Ethan. Her anxiety is not a weakness, it's evidence of what she's survived. Then Jennifer calls Ethan's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, who testifies that Ethan is thriving academically and socially, that he talks constantly about his mother and their activities together, and that on the rare occasions when Bradley picks him up from school, Ethan becomes visibly anxious. He once told me he wished he didn't have to go to his dad's house, Mrs. Rodriguez says quietly. When I asked why, he said his dad asks too many questions about his mom, and it makes him feel bad. I see Bradley's jaw tighten. My neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson, testifies next. She describes hearing Bradley shouting at me in the parking lot 8 months ago, just before I filed for divorce. She describes the fear on my face, the way my hands were shaking, the cold fury in Bradley's voice as he told me I'd never be free of him. I called the police that night, Mrs. Patterson says, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. Miss Chen was sitting in her car crying so hard she could barely breathe. I've known her for 3 years, and I've never seen someone so terrified. Then come the depositions from Bradley's ex-girlfriends. Read into the record by Jennifer. Lindsay describes Bradley's controlling behavior, his need to know where she was at all times, his explosive anger when she tried to end the relationship. Jessica talks about the subtle put-downs, the way he made her feel stupid and worthless, the way he isolated her from her friends and family. By the time Jennifer finishes, there's a pattern so clear that even Bradley's lawyers look uncomfortable. Finally, Jennifer calls me to the stand. My legs are shaking as I walk to the witness box. I raise my right hand and swear to tell the truth, then sit down, trying to steady my breathing. Jennifer starts with easy questions. How long I've been Ethan's primary caregiver, what our daily routine looks like, how I support us financially. I answer as clearly as I can, my voice gaining strength as I talk about the parts of my life I'm proud of. Then she asks about the marriage. When did you first realize something was wrong? Jennifer asks gently. I take a breath. About 2 years into our marriage, Bradley started criticizing everything I did, how I cleaned the house, how I cooked, how I dressed. At first I thought he was just stressed from work, but it escalated. He'd tell me I was stupid for not understanding something. He'd mock me in front of his colleagues. He'd go through my phone and demand to know who I was talking to. Did he ever become physical? No. Bradley was too smart for that. He never left marks. But he would corner me during arguments, get right in my face, use his size to intimidate me. He'd punch walls next to my head. He'd drive recklessly when he was angry with me in the car. My voice breaks slightly. He knew exactly how to make me afraid without ever actually hitting me. When did you decide to leave? When I realized Ethan was starting to notice. He was 5, and one day he asked me why Daddy always made me cry. That's when I knew I had to get out, not just for me, but for him. And after the divorce, Bradley told me I'd never be free of him, that he'd make my life hell, that he'd take Ethan away from me. And he's been doing exactly that, showing up at my apartment, calling and texting constantly until I blocked him, threatening to prove I'm an unfit mother. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I started having panic attacks. The shaking started. I could barely leave my apartment without feeling terrified. But I kept going because Ethan needed me. Because I'm his mother, and that's what mothers do. Jennifer lets that sit for a moment, then asks her final question. Do you love your son, Miss Chen? More than anything in this world, I say, my voice fierce now. He's everything to me, and I am a good mother. I know Bradley's lawyers tried to make it sound like I'm falling apart, like I can't take care of Ethan properly. But that's not true. Yes, I have anxiety. Yes, I struggle sometimes. But I show up for my son every single day. I help with his homework. I make him laugh. I tuck him in at night and tell him he's loved. And I will not let Bradley take that away from us. When I step down from the witness box, I catch Dante's eye. He nods once, and I see pride in his expression. Then it's Bradley's turn for cross-examination of the witnesses. His lawyers try to poke holes in our testimony, try to suggest that I'm exaggerating the abuse, that my anxiety makes me an unreliable witness. But Jennifer has prepared me well, and I don't waver. Finally, Judge Brennan calls for a recess before closing arguments. I step into the hallway, my legs barely holding me up, and find Dante waiting. You did beautifully, he says quietly. The judge heard you, really heard you. What if it's not enough? The fear is still there, coiling in my stomach. It will be. He looks at me intently. But if it's not, if this judge somehow sides with Bradley, then we move forward with Plan B. What is Plan B? Before he can answer, Bradley appears at the end of the hallway. He looks furious, his polished exterior cracking. You, he snarls, walking toward us. You put her up to this, didn't you? Convinced her to lie, to make me look like some kind of monster. Dante steps between us, his posture casual, but his voice deadly serious. You need to walk away, Mr. Chen. Now. This is harassment. I'm going to file a complaint. File whatever you want. Dante's voice drops lower. But understand something. The only reason you're not facing criminal charges right now is because Sarah wanted to handle this through the legal system. But if you win this hearing through lies and manipulation, if you take that boy away from his mother, I will make it my personal mission to ensure you regret it for the rest of your life. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. Dante takes a step closer. I know about the embezzlement, Bradley. The money you've been skimming from client accounts at Morrison and Phillips. I know about the falsified billing records. I know about the secret account in the Cayman Islands. He pulls out his phone and shows Bradley the screen. I have documentation, and if you force my hand, I will deliver every piece of evidence to the State Bar Association, the IRS, and the FBI. Bradley's face goes white. That's impossible. There's no way you could. I have resources you can't imagine, and I've been very thorough. Dante pockets his phone. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to go back into that courtroom, and you're going to accept whatever decision Judge Brennan makes. And if she rules in Sarah's favor, which she will, you're going to be a gracious loser. You're going to honor the custody arrangement. You're going to stop harassing Sarah. And you're going to be grateful that I'm giving you this chance to walk away with your career intact. I could go to the police and tell them what? That someone investigated your criminal activity? Good luck with that. Dante's expression is cold. You have one chance here, Bradley. Take it. Bradley looks at me, then back at Dante, and I see the moment he realizes he's lost. The control he's wielded for so long, the power he's used to terrorize me, it's gone. Someone finally stood up to him, and he has no idea how to handle it. He walks away without another word. I'm shaking again, but this time it's not from fear. Did you really find evidence of embezzlement? Every word was true, Dante confirms. I've had forensic accountants going through his finances for the past 3 days. Your ex-husband is not nearly as clean as he pretends to be. Were you really going to turn him in? If he'd won custody? Absolutely. Dante looks at me. I told you, Sarah. I'm not going to let him take Ethan from you. When we return to the courtroom, Judge Brennan listens to closing arguments from both sides. Then she shuffles through her papers, her expression thoughtful. I'm going to make my ruling now, she says. I've heard compelling testimony from both sides. Mr. Chen clearly has financial resources and a stable home environment. However, this court's primary concern is the best interest of the child, not which parent has more money or a bigger house. My heart hammers so hard I think everyone can hear it. What I've heard today, Judge Brennan continues, is a pattern of concerning behavior from Mr. Chen. Multiple witnesses have described controlling, intimidating conduct. The testimony from his former romantic partners is particularly troubling, as it suggests a long-standing pattern rather than isolated incidents. Bradley's lawyer starts to stand, but Judge Brennan holds up a hand. In contrast, Ms. Chen has demonstrated consistent, devoted parenting despite facing significant challenges. Her anxiety, far from being evidence of unfitness, appears to be a normal response to the psychological abuse she experienced. Dr. Palmer's testimony was particularly persuasive on this point. I can barely breathe. Most importantly, the judge says, Ethan's teacher testified that the child is thriving in his mother's care and becomes anxious when with his father. This court will always prioritize the child's emotional well-being over a parent's desire for control. She looks directly at Bradley. Mr. Chen, I am denying your petition for primary custody. The current arrangement will remain in place, with Miss Chen retaining primary physical custody and you continuing to have supervised visitation every other weekend. Additionally, given the restraining order and the concerning testimony I've heard today, I am ordering that all exchanges take place at a neutral location with a third party present. This court is also recommending that you engage in therapy to address your controlling behaviors before any modification to this arrangement is considered. The gavel comes down. I won. The relief is so overwhelming that I can't process it. Jennifer is hugging me, saying something about how proud she is, but I can barely hear her over the roaring in my ears. Bradley storms out of the courtroom, his lawyers trailing behind him, and I know his fury will be volcanic when he's alone, but he can't hurt me anymore. The court has seen through him, and Dante's evidence ensures that he won't dare retaliate. I turn to find Dante standing, his expression warm with genuine happiness. "Congratulations," he says simply. "Thank you." The words feel inadequate. Thank you for everything. For believing me. For helping me. For... My voice breaks. For standing up to him when no one else would. "You stood up to him too," Dante says. "In that courtroom, you told your truth, and you didn't back down. That took incredible courage." Outside the courthouse, the Chicago sun feels warmer than it has in months. I call Maria, and when Ethan gets on the phone, his voice is anxious. "Mommy, what happened?" "You're staying with me, baby," I say, tears streaming down my face. "The judge said you're staying with me." His whoop of joy is the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. 3 months later, I'm standing in my apartment. A new apartment, actually, in a better building that Dante helped me find, with better security and a spare room that Ethan uses for his dinosaur collection when there's a knock at the door. I open it to find Dante holding takeout bags and a bottle of wine. "I hope I'm not intruding," he says, "but I remembered you mentioning that Ethan's at a sleepover tonight, and I thought you might want some company." "I always want your company," I say honestly, stepping aside to let him in. Over the past 3 months, Dante has become a constant presence in our lives. He takes Ethan to baseball games and museums. He's taught me how to cook actual Italian food, not the boxed pasta I'd been surviving on. He's been patient and respectful, never pushing for more than I was ready to give, but always there when I needed him. And somewhere along the way, between the laughter and the quiet conversations, and the moments when his hand would brush mine, I stopped being afraid of my feelings for him. We eat dinner on my balcony, watching the sun set over the city, talking about everything and nothing. Eventually, the conversation turns more serious. "How are you really doing?" Dante asks. "With everything?" "Better," I say truthfully. The shaking has mostly stopped. I still have bad days, but they're less frequent, and Ethan is thriving. He's happy again. "That's everything. And you? Are you happy?" I think about the question. I'm getting there. For so long I was just surviving, just trying to make it through each day. But now I'm actually living again, building a life that's mine. It feels good. "You deserve that," Dante says quietly. "You deserve to be happy, Sarah. You deserve someone who sees your strength instead of trying to break it." The way he's looking at me makes my breath catch. "Dante, I know the timing might not be perfect," he interrupts gently. "I know you're still healing, still figuring out who you are outside of what Bradley did to you. But I need you to know that this," he gestures between us, "isn't just about protecting you. It stopped being just that a long time ago." "When?" "Probably the night at the restaurant, when Ethan said you couldn't stop shaking, and I saw the fear in your eyes. Or maybe the day of the custody hearing, when you stood up in that courtroom and refused to let Bradley diminish. Oh, or possibly every single moment in between." He reaches out and takes my hand. "I care about you, Sarah. Deeply. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'd like to see where this could go." I look at our joined hands, then up at his face. This man who'd appeared in my life at its darkest moment and refused to look away. Who'd given me safety without demanding anything in return. Who'd stood up to Bradley when I was too afraid to stand up for myself. Who'd become my friend, my protector, and somewhere along the way, something more. "I'm ready," I say softly. "I'm scared, and I'm probably going to need time, and I'm definitely going to have moments where the past creeps back in. But I'm ready to try. With you." His smile is like sunrise. "We'll go slow, no pressure, just us, figuring it out together." "Together," I echo. I like the sound of that. When he kisses me, it's gentle and careful and full of promise. It tastes like second chances, like healing, like the beginning of something real built on a foundation of trust and respect, rather than fear and control. Later, after Dante leaves, we agreed to take things slow, and that means not rushing into anything physical. I stand at my window looking out at the city lights, And think about how far I've come. 6 months ago, I was terrified and alone, shaking so badly I couldn't hold a fork, convinced I was going to lose my son to a man who'd spent years tearing me down. Now I'm here, in a safe home, with full custody of Ethan, with a man who sees my worth and a future that feels full of possibility instead of fear. Ethan had been right that night at Giovanni's. Someone did save me. Dante had appeared at exactly the right moment and refused to let Bradley destroy me. But more than that, I'd saved myself. I'd found the courage to leave, to fight back, to stand up in a courtroom and tell my truth. Dante had given me the tools and support I needed, but the strength had always been there inside me, just waiting to be remembered. My phone buzzes with a text from Dante. "Thank you for tonight, for trusting me, for giving us a chance. Sleep well, Sarah. You've earned your peace." I smile and type back, "Thank you for seeing me, for all of it. Sweet dreams." As I get ready for bed, I realize something profound. I'm not shaking anymore. My hands are steady. My breath is calm. My heart is light. Bradley had spent years trying to convince me that no one would save me, that I was weak and alone and worthless. He was wrong about everything. Someone did save me. And then I learned to save myself. And now, finally, I'm free to build the life I've always deserved. A life without fear. A life with love. A life where my son can grow up knowing his mother is strong and safe and happy. That's not just victory. That's everything. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.